It is 6 o'clock. We'll call to order the regular meeting of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation Board, February 13th at 6 p.m. And do a roll call. I am Karen Morgan, present.
David present. Mr. Wendell present. Vice President. Dave Garner present.
We have a quorum. Thank you all. Are there any disclosure matters to discuss tonight? Okay, seeing none, move on to changes to the agenda. Any changes?
Change my mind on changing the agenda.
Seeing none, moving on to public comment. Public comment will be open 5 minutes per person. And we will start with, do you have any
I have
public comment?
nothing.
No comment from the room.
I don't even know why I'm here.
You can talk for 5 minutes.
Hey, that's great. Let's see, how's the weather and,
We have one hand raised. Ludmilla?
Hello. Good evening. I'm going to talk a bunch of bullshit. If you didn't want to talk a bunch of bullshit, I'll do it. Miss Morgan, David, Todd, Roger, Dylan. Hey, Jesse. I hope you all have a wonderful Valentine's Day. That's tomorrow, you know, because Lakewood had a 7-hour meeting last night. I'm tired again and grouchy. So let's have a short, productive meeting tonight. And on your way home, remember, diamonds are a girl's best friend. Miss Morgan, for your significant other, I would suggest a new recliner. Then you can take ownership when you're relaxing. Or if you really want to be remembered, what about a brand new convertible? All right, I'll get serious now. Before hastily jumping into any decision tonight, my opinion is a settlement agreement is too early to even discuss. Has the Green Mountain Water's attorney requested to depose the new star witness? Is this something that is dangled as bait to hook in the suckerfish? How would you know until you proceed? Let the appeal process continue until there is a verdict. If our attorneys have done their due diligence, researched, and present comparable cases, there will be no problem. The plaintiff has to prove their case. They failed once, and they will fail again. I won't even bring up the entitled Brookfield because they have a losing argument. I want to remind the board your customers voted for candidates that campaigned in favor of responsible growth and those against extraterritorial agreement. Now, as far as the district manager searches, I hope the board will not take this decision lightly. I won't repeat what I wrote in my email. I think you probably festered and thought about it. I am going to bring something that I just found out a little while ago, and I thought it was interesting. It might be old news to you. A while back, I researched 3 Dinos and Green Tree Metro District for the city council meeting. On Lakewood Speaks, I made a comment. The president of Green Tree Metropolitan District, another Green Tree board member, and Greg Stevenson, the 3 dinos, equally paid for Wendy Strom's and at least one other city council member's campaign banners. To me, they are compromised. Stevenson even threw Wendy a lavish birthday party that included a campaign fundraiser. Were any of you guys invited? I wasn't. Oh well, what a tangled web the developers weave. All right, guys, I'm done. Get busy and keep smiling.
Thank you much. Anybody else like to speak? Please raise your hand. I see no one else.
Okay.
Last opportunity and done. All right, thank you, everyone. Next is approval of the minutes.
I move their approval. the secretary is supporting them?
There was some question as to whether it got out, but I think I looked at them a week ago and I thought I turned them in and you confirmed me today that they're in, so. Good. So yeah, I'm good.
Second.
Yeah, I second that, yes.
All right, Director Garner. Makes motion, Director Rickman seconds. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous approval.
On the financial information.
Thank you. Financial.
That's what I spent all morning working on.
Yeah?
Yay.
What have you got for us?
Nothing, it was all fine. I just like all the interest we're earning and I like that we're under budget. We're making more than we thought. We're only 1 month in. So I am going to move that we approve the regular operating expenses and capital expenditures and the unaudited financial statement. And I liked Doug's report showing us the availability of what was there for the long-term investments as far as what you're allowed to do with a public utility. And so I'm going to move that we approve all of the above.
Second.
Director Hook's motions, Director Garner seconds. To be clear, there is no action
Well,
you're suggesting.
I'm just saying I like the.
You're liking the report.
We're not- Yes, it was
Okay.
not, it's not part of the financial statement, so I'm not approving it.
Okay.
I'm just saying I liked it.
Very good. Any discussion on approving the reports and expenditures? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous approval. Thank you much. Any discussion on the long-term investment strategy? Anything else?
We're doing the best we can. I mean, I was just calculating if we, with our basic stuff, we'll make like $950,000. I like, well, assuming, I mean, that's just free money in the budget. That's what I like, free money in the budget.
That would be a good thing.
Yes, it would be.
Okay. All right, we're on to district reports then.
Sorry, if I could just interject, is there any action you guys would like me to take further with any of the institutions?
I'm fine with already done.
I did not hear any.
He says, is there any further action?
No, I understand.
Oh.
I did not hear any. That's what I was
Oh, I
asking
thought you
if
said-
we were going to do something. Apparently not.
Okay, would you like me to follow up in the coming months? Any kind of timeline on that?
I wouldn't mind like seeing it after the first quarter again. Just.
Okay.
I mean, we get to see it on the financials, but I don't know if, you know, if things will change. If the interest rates, I guess, we're gonna see with what happens with the Fed, so.
It's an election year, so there should be.
So that's what I'm wondering what they're gonna do.
Downward pressure on rates. Get what we can while we can.
Okay, perfect. I'll just wait for more direction from the board then.
Thank you, Doug.
You bet.
Good evening, everybody. Josh on the line here.
Good evening.
Bring up the slides.
Taking a look here at the operations and maintenance reports. Nothing out of the norm as far as winter time activity goes for main breaks, and we did come across a few valves that needed replacement during the valve maintenance that we do on a day-to-day basis. So
Are
those,
those like ones that are in the street, Josh, or where are the valves, just like from my curiosity?
yeah, they're in the street. Most of them are in intersections or
Okay.
near fire hydrants, things like that. So we kicked off the UMS transmitter replacement program, which has been extremely helpful for us as a staff. And they've in about 3 weeks did 644 changeouts. So we're still on target, I think, for a March completion. That's what we're looking at. The online appointment scheduling has worked pretty well. for our customers. We've had, had a few hiccups here and there, but overall it's been very successful so far.
How is that affecting staff time? As you were expecting to free things up?
Yes, for the most part, the meter crew has been able to focus more on dead transmitters, tampers, things like that. Meter reading has also kind of been a small issue that they've been working through, but that's just been with the currently deployed meters that are in place. So it's overall, it's going to be to free up a lot more of their time moving forward to work on other things than dead transmitters.
Okay.
Moving on to the development reviews, the JVA had provided a memo for the car wash, which I included in the packet here. Doesn't look like it's going to have a whole lot of impact on the system since they've based on their gallons per day criteria. There are a few outstanding issues that we're working through with them right now. Their kiosk is going to encroach into a sewer easement that since the line's been abandoned, but we still want to make sure that if we were to ever use that for something else, water line or sewer line or something else, that it's, they know that they need to be aware that their equipment can be moved out of the way at their cost. We're also working through the sizing of the meter. They expect a 2-inch with a less than 10 feet per second demand on the system, which is acceptable for 2-inch, but it's kind of close to that number. So if actual use exceeds that, then they're going to need a 3-inch, and we want to make sure that they're aware of that when it comes to the tap permit. So we'll be able to monitor their actual usage and adjust it accordingly. Fletcher Miller, nothing's really changed there. Miller has sent back their comments to JVA, who's working for the school for Jefferson County. So that's moving along without any issues. 1031 South Union, which is over there by the swim club, they have requested our pre-design meeting, which kind of gives them FaceTime with us to where we can explain the development review process, what it all entails, and what they can expect as far as studies and things like that coming down the line once they submit to Lakewood. Next up is the Fed Center. We had conducted the interviews. Miller sent us back their recommendation. Between the two of them, Sam and I, we are all pretty much on the same page as far as who we would like to select, and that came down to TRC or Trihydro. All of them had impressive presentations. It just TRC and Trihydro kind of stuck out a little bit more. They answered the majority of the staff questions that we had before we even got to that phase. So my recommendation is Trihydro be the consultant engineer. The 2024 infrastructure replacement. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. So before you move on, did everybody hear that? So was there anything for us to talk about? Good, fine?
Well, I've just never heard of Trihydro. Where do they come from?
They were one of our groups. I actually really liked them from from what they had submitted. They were one of my like top three, and so I'm very happy. And I believe the staff has worked with them before is one of the other reasons that they.
And they're obviously local.
They're
So-
they're local, they're pretty large. Some of their some of the things that stuck out the most with them is they had no experience with Lincoln Properties or Vertex, the engineer for them. They just were the most qualified in my eyes for things like that. They have no potential conflicts of interest or anything like that as far as the work that they're going to do.
Josh, did you get the sense that they understand what the board's concerns are about the property?
They, you know, in the interview, we sat, as we were sitting with them, we showed them some of we showed all of them some of the documents that we did have from Vertex and how it kind of focused on phase 2 of their entire project, which phase 1 is, you know, the part that nobody's put their hands on since, I think the last workout done down out there was around 2017. That's where the major water line's going to go through. That's going to loop both ends of the property together. So they know we're expecting potentially additional work on our own to validate Vertex's work.
Thank you.
So it's not so much as just a desktop study. They know that there's the potential for additional work outside of that.
Thanks for handling all that.
No problem. Does anybody else
And
have
then-
questions on the?
We're good.
And then I'm sorry, you were saying that we're waiting to hear from the developer on that. We still have not gotten
We
papers.
actually, Friday afternoon, they did submit a package to us, which did include the water and sewer availability forms, which is the kind of the starting point where, once they get those signed, then that's where we start talking about things like, you know, things that are going to be required of that particular development, studies and anything else that is outlined in that process.
Actually, I do remember a question now. It's probably gonna be in the next couple of pages that you're gonna call up. It seems to me there was some sort of comment that we've only got 400 taps, and don't hold me to that number. Anyway, there was a number, we only got so many taps left unless we somehow go back and give more or something. I don't know. It was pretty cryptic from my point of view, but I thought it might be of some consequence. The next couple of pages.
Yeah, I could just, you know, quickly, the 2024 IRP stuff's moving along. We've submitted to Lakewood. They've submitted to Denver, so that's just moving forward pretty standard. Nothing, no hiccups there yet either. The next slide here where we show the sewer flow monitoring and the water taps remaining. Yeah, I finally did hear back from Denver Water.
There it is, 402 equivalent that. What's that all about?
So there was an agreement signed in, I think it was 1974, that allowed so many additional taps beyond what the district already had before we would need to participate in their program that requires distributors to upgrade infrastructure in order to expand Denver system to get more taps in our system. And as far as the work that would need to be done, we don't know what that is, but I just wanted at least the board to be aware of what we had remaining to us before we get to that stage. And right
Yeah,
now, 402 3/4 inch equivalent taps remaining. So that's like for basically 402 single-family homes.
And that's just in general, like from here on out?
Yep, from here on out. Once that number hits 6740, that's when the
Oh, that hurts.
infrastructure replacement stuff begins. And I will be requesting more information from Denver as to what that entails, if that ever becomes an issue for us.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd like to see what the cost is. Obviously, we want to pass that on.
Well, or the other way of looking at it is, can we only take on 402? And then, and that's the end of that. Because we're getting more requests than 402.
Yeah, just need to do the math as far as what Denver considers a 3/4 inch equivalent. Like I said, I got this really late Thursday, so I quickly slid it into the presentation here just so you guys at least had a solid number of what we have available.
I don't think legally we could limit to 402, Dave. I think if there was in our district, we would have to consider it. Not an extraterritorial, but if it was within our district, I don't know how legally, I would think a landowner would have a right to potentially, but get the tap, but to me, it would come at a significant cost if that's our new criteria that's gonna pile on.
Some of that's kind of dependent on the participation agreement. I haven't taken a look at that.
Okay.
But is that something my memory is, and we looked at this a little while ago, I haven't looked at it again, but my memory is that 400 equivalents is enough to do a significant amount of development. So I don't know that it would be, well, I mean, how many units is just the Federal Center?
I don't know, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, I would think we would lawfully probably have to serve them technically.
Well,
But to me, but it would come at a cost. If it was, so it's like, say, I'm gonna make this up. The Federal Center, I'll just, to make it hypothetical, is 500 and it goes over 100. And these new taps, because of this participation agreement, and Denver Water charges us an additional $10,000 or $20,000 for every tap. I'm assuming that just gets us a straight pass through to
well,
the developer, right?
yeah, well, it's a bare minimum, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I remember when we looked at that, about 6 months ago, what struck me was that, yeah, we're supposed to provide service if it's practical. And then, of course, the practical part was, if Denver Water says you're done, then we are done. Now, does that somehow mean we have to pay for upgrades? Well, if there is, the we is not, the homeowners, it's
Right.
the developers. But anyway, I think this is a significant situation we need to be following closely.
And it's a significant data point for consideration of service outside the district.
Yeah. Well, like you were mentioning, the Fed Center, off the top of my head, I'm recalling their proposal was over 1,000 apartments. So, so much for 402.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but like I said, I would just assume that those new costs, then we can pass on to them and.
And before we get too far down the rabbit hole, we might want to let the staff figure out what those equivalent taps really mean in practical effect before we go off.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'll be watching that.
Yeah, it could be a very useful tool.
Well, very significant.
Well, it sounds like you are looking at that. It's on your radar. Dylan and Josh is obviously on his radar. So thank you all.
Of course.
Did we miss anything? Do we need to go back a slide? How are we doing?
No, just the top half of this slide. So we did reach out to a contractor to install some temporary sewer monitoring meters for us for this upcoming wet season. We've identified 4 or 5 locations and they came out to field verify those, so we're just waiting on the quote to come over, and that way we can get that going in for our model refinement.
That is and again, that's to augment our model and,
Yes,
can you tell us, okay. I'll let anybody else ask questions if they had it. Good?
Good.
Okay. Sounds good.
yeah, yeah, like I said, it'll help us have more accurate information to be able to identify impacts at that 0.78 D/D. And so I think it's going to be significant help for us moving forward.
That'll be a good baseline. Thank you.
Josh, I just wanted to mention that, the guys working a problem this past week at, Iowa and South Welch Circle.
Yes.
And that just basically happens to be outside in front of my house. I went out and chatted up the guys. They actually walked over me before I even got to the sidewalk, and we had a great conversation. I finally told them who I was, and didn't bother them at all, thankfully. But I was very impressed with how they quickly engaged me just to let me know what was going on. They were very, very professional, and I really appreciated it. I'm assuming that they're that way with other people in the district, not just me, because they didn't know who I was.
Yep.
So thanks to the guys for that.
Thank you for that. This last slide here, Sam's pretty well versed in the model stuff since he's been doing some seminars and things like that. So I'm going to let him touch on this slide. If you wouldn't mind, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've kind of been discussing updating our design criteria for development and how we assess our sanitary infrastructure. So we've been kind of toying around with different ideas of how the best way to approach it and the best way to allocate costs to different portions of the infrastructure. Something that Josh and I have been discussing recently. Currently, our wastewater system and our water system are viewed as whole items, essentially. And while that is the case with the water system, it's fairly intertwined. The wastewater system has specific zones that usage relates to. So we have been talking about exploring the impact of what it would be like to split fees to the associated wastewater zones, essentially.
Okay.
So it's just an update to how we apply our rates to the areas.
Can you elaborate on that last sentence?
Yeah.
I'm trying
to give a broad overview, right?
Are we saying that about the various colors? Are we sitting there saying like such and such a zone, the pink zone would have a different rate than other zones?
Not a usage rate. There are some rate models that we could look at in the future. Right now, it would be more directed towards fees to make sure that development in areas is specifically targeting those areas and not areas as a whole.
Okay, so you're focused on tap fees.
Tap fees and development fees.
And there are other districts that follow that model.
So rather than just the one overall tap fee, it'd be tap fee for different zones.
For example, Fed Center could be its own zone.
Fed Center, their wastewater goes out through a separate meter than say the southern half of the district. So there's we're metered in 3 different locations by Metro Water Recovery, so we're in the infancy of just trying to explore what kind of impact that would have for development moving forward. And what tap fees will look like.
At first blush, do we have any sense as to how different zones may correspond to our set fee now, more or less?
I don't have any hard numbers on how that works. But, you know, we essentially have 5 separate zones. We have, 2 subzones that are, that feed into a sewer lift station that lifts it and then, deposits it into the lower zones. There is, you know, sizing wise, infrastructure wise, we don't have a lot of upsizing requirements for our southern zone. So the 2 northern zones contain most of the potential capacity issues.
Okay, well, something I'll follow.
Yeah.
And the metering is gonna be, the studying is gonna be critical in figuring out how to fully implement all of these, and we need to figure out all of the different strategies for charging as things go forward and change, you know, with little infill projects that may be really higher density than. So all of that data is gonna pull together.
And what we're gonna do is, as we want to do the 5 metering points that we're doing right now to build a better baseline understanding of how our flows are distributed. And then as larger developments go in, when applicable, you will have some part of that part of the development process be that they put in a flow monitor to essentially back up what our model is built on and is drawn to stay up on.
Do you have a sense of what the timing might be for all these changes?
Well, that's something that we're talking about implementing very quickly. From this point forward, any new developments that come in, if we are identifying that they are of a size that they're gonna have a substantial impact, then we would require
On those kind of fees.
Developments. Prior to anything going. To further.
It just strikes me as like person. I mean, if we're paying like 12 months later, I might understand.
Yeah, so that's it's kind of all we have for right now. Anybody has any additional questions, we'll do what we can to answer those.
Do you have a status on the operational memo going to the Fed Center on the pumps and whatnot from JVA?
We do not have any new information there. The fact that they've now officially requested water and sewer from us, we can start that process.
Okay. And the GPR study and.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah, we'll lay out all the studies that the district would like to see, will require for this to move.
Perfect, thank you.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Good. All right, we are done with the district reports, I believe. So you have a question?
Oh, I'm looking at the bills and I just the Ogburn NIMS bill, they're charging us interest for not paying them in a certain amount of time. But when their fees are $97,000 and we pay them like every month, I'm not sure why they would be charging us, like I just said to him, if it was a year down the road, I might understand. But
Yeah,
It just seems petty to me on those kind of fees to be charging us interest.
yeah.
We have it written into our fee agreement, but yeah, we typically don't.
I have it in ours, but we don't unless the people like aren't paying. I mean, if they pay, what she's saying. Anyway,
Right.
just saying, sorry, sidebar.
Yeah,
Could we have some staff to maybe approach their accountant or something? I'm sure. And ask them to waive this. I'm sure that they would. We would.
Yeah,
Doug still on? Yeah. Doug, did you catch that?
I did, yeah, I can certainly reach out to them.
yeah, I just don't think on those kind of fees, Doug. I mean, even if we're paying them a month late, on $100,000 of fees, $386 in interest, it just seems like this little petty charge for now. To me, so.
No, it is, but and their invoices do seem to come in much later, because that invoice was for December. That's being presented for payment, so there's also that.
They bill us late and then they charge us for being late? Is that, I mean, is that kind of what you're saying? So
Once I receive the invoices, I present them for payment. That's
that's what I would
we'll leave
imagine.
that.
So I mean, the most we would be like 60 days out, maybe. Maybe. Anyway,
Doug, would you
Yeah,
mind taking
maybe.
a chat then?
Yeah, I'll absolutely reach out to them.
next time he's online, I'll badger him.
there you go. I had a request, somebody that had their hand up apparently on a cell phone that didn't get to make public comment. Would anybody be interested in opening public comment back up for another comment?
I move we open it again for public comment.
Is there a second?
Sure.
Director Rendell makes a motion, Director Wickman seconds. I don't know why I can't do this. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Director Hooks opposes. All the rest in favor? If that person, I still don't see a hand raised. Is that person still online? Nope, not seeing anything. Okay. Sorry, that's twice. I'm gonna give it 3, 2, 1. Sam, you seen anything?
Don't see anything.
All right. We tried. So on to a vote for a new district manager. We've we've got some background noise here, sorry. Okay, so we had a meeting last week. We were down to 2 candidates.
Well, I would like to, do you want a discussion or you want me to,
Make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we, hire Josh Stanley as the new district manager.
I'll second that.
Director Hooks makes a motion. Director Wendell seconds. Any discussion?
I'll let everybody else go first.
Good, nobody?
Well, like, I'll go if nobody does. Well, a lot of things. Last couple of days, I've gotten a number of phone calls. People had questions that they weren't necessarily wanting to put in writing because there's some concerns. But, you know, I think they are concerns. The thing they brought to my attention was, if you remember the Douglas School Board situation where it appeared that the elections were kind of made out of school, and we kind of presented the rest of the board then as a fait accompli. And I remember having kind of that same thought back in November when this first came up. It gave me the impression that even though we wanted to do some serious headhunting, there was a movement to, essentially put Josh in. And, and of course, my thought was, I don't really know him from Adam, other than he's done, very well these last few months. But that's not the issue, is whether, I know him or like him. It's, what's the proper way of doing these things. And so, we needed to do a national search, or at least a regional search. And so we did kind of, I remember originally when, what's his name, Yost was writing things, that he was, he was only saying there was nobody interested. And we were insistent that, yeah, you really need to check. And so once we started checking, we found out that people were indeed interested, somewhere in the neighborhood of almost 100 people. And not only 100, but there's half a dozen or a dozen that were actually, really very good. And when I look at those resumes and some of those interviews, I was, very, very impressed with these outside candidates. And the outside candidates offer us something that's different. Of course, there's, obviously some advantages to people in-house and promoting and all that sort of stuff. But as far as increasing our pool of value and management, you just take what you've already got. You haven't made any improvements. So, part of my rationale in pushing for this was to see if we could enhance our management by bringing in some fresh blood. And that's, I think, what I kind of made the comment before, that if we did bring in some fresh blood and at the same time promote Josh to be the deputy, then we kind of get a chain of command, a little bit of redundancy, because up until now we've been kind of slender and vulnerable. Every time we lose a manager, we didn't have a deputy to fill in. And I've always thought that was kind of a shortcoming. And so I've always thought it'd be a good idea to have a deputy. And Josh strikes me as a very logical candidate to consider that. And if he were a deputy to an outsider, then it could be kind of a team where they're bringing both sides to the equation. We got an insider, we got an outsider, and that kind of gives us the best of both worlds. Or if we just stay in-house, that doesn't grow us beyond where we're at right now. And I think that would be very important. But anyway, these comments that I was getting from folks was kind of like, look like the fix is in. It's like, it looks like Josh was already decided a long time ago. Well, I remember back in November, that was kind of my impression, that it looks like we were just going to do to Josh, and that was that. And I didn't think that was appropriate then. I certainly wouldn't think it's appropriate now. Now, if it was a matter we went through this whole bit and there was nobody on the outside, well, it might be a point, but we've got a bunch of really good candidates. And not only the one that we're talking about right now, but the other 6 candidates were all pretty good. I, would have liked having any of those. So anyway, my concern is that if we rush this through picking out our own guy, it kind of could give the impression that the whole thing was kind of a sham. And it was certainly not a sham to me, but that could certainly be the impression to the public that, it was decided 6 months ago that Josh was going to be our man, and we've just been wasting time going through these motions. And it was not a waste of my time. I thought it was a good exercise. I think we got some really good candidates. And like I said, I would like to have a team approach where we bring somebody in from the outside and then combine them with Josh as a manager and a deputy, and really strengthen our organization, as opposed to right now, if we just pick Josh, we just basically stay where we're at. There's no change from where we are today. So anyway, that's my thought. So I guess along with that, I go back to, at this point, I was like, well, why are we looking at Josh? When I looked at all the other things that were kind of important, was like, well, he kind of had the least amount of education. He kind of had the least management experience. Going down all these lists of things that, were important to me. He didn't really seem to have as much as these other people, other than the fact that he's the insider. Well, of course, there's certain advantages to being the insider, but on the other hand, there's certain disadvantages. It can be kind of incestuous if we don't grow outside of our own immediate circle. And then my final concern when they brought that up to me is like, well, we had a couple candidates that could be, wondering why they weren't chosen. And, my concern is, what if somebody was to claim, discrimination? It's like, I have all this education and experience, but I'm a minority. And the guy who's not a minority, who has the least education, the least experience, got chosen over me. It's like, how would that look in court? So anyway, I'm kind of thinking, I'm uncomfortable with this situation. So I wish we would go with another alternative, which would bring Josh in as the deputy manager.
So, well, do you wanna know why I want Josh, since you've given me every reason we shouldn't? We've had a long-standing problem with keeping managers here since I've been around it. And to me, someone has weathered the test of time here is worth their weight in gold. That and the fact that people respect him, they work well for him. He brings literally the knowledge of Green Mountain Water to the table. He brings his knowledge of this area to the table. He has faithfully stuck through 3 different managers who have walked away, and he's not left. And to me, that's worth a lot more than, am I concerned that we're showing a show for people? I don't want to show a show. I want to put a person in place that can get the job done, keep the people working, and make this place run smooth. And I believe Josh is the man for the job.
I remember early on in our process, it was Director Wendell who sat right there. I sat over here, maybe over here. And you said, as I recall, can we get our own people to be interested in the job? Paraphrasing.
That's fair,
That's
yes.
fair. And I thought that's what Mr. Yost was doing. He was going out beating the bushes, seeing if anyone was interested. In response to that, do you have the pieces of paper from last week?
I do.
Could I have mine? My number 1 is Tom Gill. My number 2 is Josh Stanley. That should answer that part of the question. But Dave, what I'd really like to know, so I thank you for having done that. Honestly, that had not occurred to me in the beginning that we might go inside, because we were talking about, I was talking to a national search firm. They were exorbitant in their prices, and afraid not to go that way. So we did those kinds of things early on. It wasn't successful, and then Director Wendell and the guys got all these other applicants. Great, happy for that. Some are really good. One of them is my number 1. But I wonder, how do we create this deputy position, given that we've got a motion on the table? How are you going to fund it? And how soon can we do that if that's the route we go in? Would you have a way to execute your vision?
Well, I would assume that the board would have the authority to create the position and to fund it. And we, of course, have saved a lot of money in these last few months by not having that. And again, going back to and I had the same concern. And that's what, brought this in my mind was, we've been going through managers every couple of years. Well, what if we've already set up who the successor is if that happens again? And if we don't, then what happens if Josh leaves? Okay, you can sit there and say he'll never leave us. Well, maybe not. But if he gets run over, who's going to step right up? And, as you know, a chain of command means you got to have somebody ready to step up.
I don't disagree with you, Dave. It seems to kind of late in the process to do this. absent a plan for doing it tonight. I mean,
I don't think there'd be any problem with the process. If we wanted to do that tonight, we could do it. If you
Well,
wanted to move a discussion, but we're in the middle of something.
You can't just create a position and fill it with
Okay.
a chosen person. That would be
You'd
a
have to go
promotional
through stuff.
opportunity that would need to be posted and there would need to be an application process. So it is feasible. You can do that tonight.
Yeah.
I wanted to add a couple of things. I took this very seriously and like all of you, put a lot of time into reviewing these candidates. And as you're aware, I spoke to many of them. As far as, I spoke to their references and those kinds of things, put a lot of time into this. I also went to a search firm and bounced this off of a search firm that appeared to be way too expensive to me. To me, it was not a foregone conclusion that Josh would end up in this position, and he hasn't ended up in it yet. But as good as all the other candidates are or were, and they were all very good, I'm convinced that Josh will serve us the best, and I see no reason to have an assistant at this point.
Well, I go back to, if Josh wasn't our guy, he wouldn't be on my list. There were 5 people I thought were above him, but he's one of our guys. So in respect for that, he's in consideration. But then on the other hand, it shouldn't be a matter that only our guy is in consideration. And again, that's the thing that kind of looks bad. It's like he was basically chosen back in November, and the whole process kind of looks like a sham.
Well, I would disagree with you there, Dave, because, Josh has got to come to meetings with us. He has had months to show us things that he's done for us. So we've got to see him perform in front of us. And to me, we know his work record here is stellar. Then, I guess I feel like he's not being given credit for the stuff he's done in the interim, where he has literally acted virtually as the manager running the entire operation. And anyway, we can go round and round and round if you want. I don't know if it's gonna serve anything, but.
after we got the resumes, we all had a chance to review them. There was a board meeting following that. And I asked, can we identify who our top 3 are? We talked about that and some people didn't want to do that. That's what we did for Jeff Tyus's hire. We each named 3 people. We looked at the names and we ended up with Tyus and one other person that we interviewed. I'm a little confused as to why now you're telling us you have 5 other people that you support, but you never told us who the 3 were, so we could even focus on anybody else. I had.
So on my list, I would just tell you, if he pulls out a little tag, Josh was my first, Tom Gill was my second. It's not that I don't think. It's not that I don't think other people are not capable of doing this job. I think they're very capable of doing this job. And what I've seen, I think Tom is very qualified. Still, my biggest concern in all of it is we seem to, whether it's our personalities, whether it's our poor management style, we need to probably look a lot at ourselves. And I said this the last time when Tyus went, is we apparently are hard on managers. And Josh has weathered that through thick and thin. And we don't know that I don't know Tom well enough to say he could do that or not do that. On paper, and from the interview I saw, I really liked him. I truly did. But when I feel compelled to have someone sitting in the chair that I think knows us or knows what's going on enough to what I would call weather the storm and weather us. I'll just say.
One thing we don't
Final
know
comment?
is if there are other names in play where we might have a majority. I would much prefer we had a consensus candidate. And I would want to ask Josh how he felt about the deputy position, if you had a way to get there. But Dave, you're one of the smartest people I've ever met, and you didn't come with a plan for how to do it? I mean, that seems weird to me.
Okay, so we're getting off into a deputy position. He did bring it up before. We could talk about that if we want to. We have a motion on the table. And I think we're circling into attack mode.
I would just say that we each have a position on someone we like. I don't know if it's about an attack, but it's.
Yeah. My comment would be, that I agree the process in here is wrong and that it really did seem like the fix was in. So I'm disappointed in that.
I'm sorry.
It did seem like the fix was in conversation and discussion over what the vision, I agree with Director Wickman, vision for the district, what we want to bring in, the qualifications, none of that, all of that stopped after we wrote the job description and we focused on a person. That being said, and all of that was important. I am uncomfortable with the fact that proof of the fix not being in is that we've been able to watch him in process for months. Well, that's, I think what you were saying is that we did have somebody in mind and we watched him for months. The other candidates didn't have that chance. So no, we do not know. And that maybe that's fine. I would be more comfortable if I heard less focus on, he was not my number 1 pick, he was my number 2 pick. Or we've seen him in. Director Hooks made some very clear comments about why he supported Josh Stanley. I offered that the last 2 meetings. First meeting I got laughed at, last meeting someone said that wasn't needed to justify. I believe this is a decision that needs justified to the residents. Why do you like him? And I've only got one, I've only got one statement about that. So if we are all comfortable, it sounds like everybody's very comfortable proceeding, which is where I think we are at. I will say for myself, I think everything you said was true, and this was fixed. But
I don't.
we
agree.
went through the process.
I would completely disagree with that.
And
Accusations suggest that it's.
I understand, and that's where we were in November. But again, I haven't heard anything. We haven't talked about any of that.
What would you like to hear?
I would like to hear answers to the questions I've asked before. But what are you supporting? What did we want? What kind of justifications do you have? My justification for supporting Mr. Stanley is the outstanding job he has been doing. I've talked to him several times. I do know that it's not going to be about all the qualifications. And I knew that that was not a battle that we were going to have. I wish we could have had the discussion about what the vision was for the district and how that was going to fit in. I think that would have been important. But I think he will do an outstanding job. And I think that as the motion has been made and the vote that's coming down, I will support him any way I can. I think he will do an outstanding job.
I can tell you the reason that I feel strongly about him compared to all the other candidates, their records notwithstanding. And that is that we face multiple litigations currently ongoing, some in the future. We got a guy here who's been through that with us, I saw him testify. Dylan saw him testify to the point where the judge said to the guy that Arnie said, who called him, said, would you like to have him be a hostile witness? He did a great job for us.
He did.
He did a great job.
He did.
And the other guys are unknown. We have some people that I really like who said they haven't done litigation. Our district manager is going to be either a deer in the headlights or a guy who's been there. That to me means a great deal. I've also been impressed with, I talked to him when I first learned that he was interested, and I said, thank you for being interested. Now, don't half-ass this, go for it, work hard for it. And I think he's performed admirably. And we haven't had a discussion about anything regarding the job since then. And I looked at everybody. And as I said, the litigation thing is a big thing for me. I
Good.
worry about what the consequences are if we have a district manager who doesn't quite share our. I think the majority of the board really does believe we don't want to do it, the exit territory. I think we really all feel that.
I
So,
don't actually know what Josh's position on all that is.
Well, he doesn't really have to have a position because
he
we
just
tell
knows
him.
what to do. And he
I
knows
mean,
how
that's
to do it.
our vote as the directors, that's us to.
Yeah, we provide the guidance, and he's clearly demonstrated the ability to follow us, which has been a problem in past district
Yeah,
managers.
that's,
as you all know.
that's the point, is somebody sabotaging.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other final thoughts? From Director Garner, Director Hooks, Wendell? All right, time to vote. All in favor of our new district manager, Mr. Stanley?
Josh, I say aye.
Aye. All opposed?
What?
Director Wickman opposed. Everybody else in favor. Thank you and congratulations to Mr. Stanley. All right. That being said, I think we should look at a deputy position, and that could be,
I don't have a problem.
yeah,
Because
that,
I don't even know if you guys remember this. This was way at the beginning. I actually said, when I knew he was interested, one of the things I asked was, if it was something, if he took the role, could there be a potential for him to move to another role if we basically crapped on him? Because I say on this board, we have to take responsibility for stuff. Since I've been here with like Jeff Tyus and before, I mean, to me, we need to have introspectively looked at ourselves, because we're part of the problem, honestly. And if you don't think that, then I'm not sure what. I think each one of us added and piled on and probably shouldn't have done things that were done. And to me, that's not a good testimony for us.
Well, let me, piggyback on what you were just saying. I think we ought to create a position, and maybe we can offer that to, Mr. Gill.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I wouldn't either.
I would be opposed to it.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's for future discussion, right?
That is,
Based on what Dylan said, I'm not
I-
sure we can do that.
I believe that would be, I
Not
want to put that up as a discussion item. I think that will be up to our new manager. There will be other staffing decisions to be made. We will have a vacancy from Josh's current position, so there will be other decisions to be made. I'm just signaling that I would be open to that. I think we do have some ability to grow there. Okay, but we will look forward to seeing what goes on there. We'll let him have some time to adjust and come in.
One question, will the
Thank-
interview committee contact the
Yeah,
remaining candidates?
Yeah, we'll do that through Jesse.
thank you.
So typically, there is a contract negotiation period following the selection of district manager. So terms of offer, salary, start dates, those sorts of things. We don't have that on the agenda today. I think that you should probably talk about at least what the timeline is for making that happen.
Yeah, you're right. And I did not list that separately and totally forgot about it here tonight, but that was something that was in my mind.
Well, we could consider part of this item of business. It's no reason not to.
Yeah, if you want to go into executive session, that's tougher.
Okay.
Well, I guess
So you
I
just think to
wanted to,
discuss it just right now. the timeline?
Yeah, just figure out when you wanna make that, when do you wanna have that session, who do you wanna have, participate in contract negotiations?
I wanted to nominate Director Hooks because he did it before.
It's fine.
Does it need an executive session if we can nominate somebody now?
No, if you wanna just, come up with a proposal and make that. You don't need to.
Bring it back
discuss
to the
in
board,
executive session.
and then, yeah.
Or you can bring it and discuss it next time. Yeah.
Okay,
Well, I think the last time you just gave me, like, even though there was a huge salary range, I was giving another range that I was just given to stay within. I don't know if you wanna do that again, or you just wanna give me carte blanche.
Well, I think
Just getting 800,000 a year.
it'll be, you'll be bringing a proposal. I think the idea is that you'll be bringing a proposed contract for the board's consideration to then make the offer. Is that what you were?
that was what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
So you start with carte blanche and then you get reined in next time.
Wow. Okay, that's fine.
Your reputation for an accountant is on the line.
Doing accounting and negotiating are two separate places.
I know, but the accountant, to quote you, the accountant in me says.
Yeah.
Okay, well, or would you be willing to
No, I'm
do that?
fine. I'm happy to do that.
Great.
Sorry to interject. What would the timeline on that be? Just so I know how to prepare everything.
Would you wanna shoot for like March 1?
I,
Or, I don't
would
know,
it be a board meeting or?
bi-weekly? So when is like the first thing in March? When would start the pay period in March? I don't know.
Does this need to be a board decision to approve contract?
It will,
Proposal.
yeah, so
Yeah, so it
the
needs-
board will be approving the contract that you provide to.
So we need to do that before we come up with the timeline? Is that what you're now telling me?
No, I'm telling you, you need a timeline within which board approval of the contract to make the offer that's part of the time.
Oh,
So
we need,
either the
so
next,
either we do a special session or we do it in early March, or it's a March meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I think if you're just presenting a contract to the board for review, that'd be a pretty quick special meeting.
Okay, so just, I heard a question in there. Our pay period begins next Monday for a new one. So it's every 2 weeks after that.
Okay. I'll have to, I guess we need to get the approval then and. So yeah, so I'll give Josh a call
And if you're gonna do a background search, coordinate that.
I thought we did it on the final.
You talked to references, but you didn't do a background root check, on these candidates.
do we need to since he's internal?
I don't know if you do background checks.
I don't know, we didn't, well, I don't know if we did.
Doug does it?
Doug, did
Yeah.
you do a background check with Jeff Titus?
I wasn't specifically involved with that, but I know our newest employee, I did that and the turnaround was, with her specifically, very fast. So I don't think it would be a long delay.
Do you remember the year Josh got out of prison?
No comment.
Do we want to do a special meeting in 2 weeks on the 27th? Do you want to wait until
Let me,
the next regular?
so I just need to get back with them. I need to find what the range, I don't remember what a range was.
Okay,
And then,
well, plan for the regular March meeting then, and if something comes
Yeah.
up, you can
we can
call.
try to do it, yeah, in advance.
Okay.
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 So that's the next regular meeting. All right. Anything else associated with district manager? Okay. Thank you, that was a big step. That would be nice to put behind us and move on. Be good to have him. And on to another big decision. We have a decision on the mediation options for the Big Sky case. I wanted to preface that discussion with a little bit of background for people listening, and then ask Dylan to correct me and fill in all my blanks. But I wanted to make sure that people understood that we had a conversation in executive session, so we did get a lot of legal advice. It is up to us to make a decision going forward, so we're making that vote here in public, but there may be information that you don't know. Some of that includes mediation strategies that would be discussed after this vote. We need to be clear that this is not a vote on settlement. This is a vote on mediation. No matter what happens with this vote, it is distinct from settlement, so we don't know how this is gonna go. So I just don't want anybody to get the wrong idea for anybody who would vote that way. We do have an option to tell the court that we tried this before and it didn't work. We don't really want to try mediation again. That doesn't mean the court will agree with us, but it is our option. So what else am I missing to make this clear, what we can say here now?
Just a little bit more detail. The deadline to hold mediation, if you choose to, is currently the 16th, so this Friday. So if you choose to participate in mediation, you'll need to extend that deadline, no matter what, because you won't be able to find a mediator within the next 3 days. I'm sure that everyone would agree to that, to extend the deadline, because that's just good form. If you choose, you have mediated. The outcome of the mediation last time, according to the filing that was submitted to the court, the notice of completion of mediation stated that the parties expected there to be additional mediation dates. That didn't happen because the court ruled on the pending motion for summary judgment in the interim at that time. So it's sort of an open question to me whether you are currently under an active order to mediate, or if it is just sort of a judicial expectation rather than an actual order based on that prior notice. But I do agree that if you choose not to participate in mediation, you're going to need to ask the court to waive that order or expectation. And I think that the argument that you've already mediated unsuccessfully is a fair argument, but I think that you've got 3 years since that happened, plus 7 months or so of discovery that have transpired since then, that makes the ground considerably different from what it was 3 years ago. So I think there's also fair odds that the court will say, no, go and try it anyway.
And that would be court ordered, and again, not a reflection of any predisposition to settlement by anybody.
Right, you have to
You have.
mediate in this case.
Yep.
And whether you satisfy that requirement or not, that's an open question, but you must mediate. Yes,
Okay.
by court order.
That's if
Can we have
they
more discussion?
If it's still active.
No,
Cause
go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, I mean, I've gone over this 100 times in my mind. And with that, I would like to make a motion that we do not go to mediation.
I would second.
Because I think that if it's court ordered, that's fine, but the more I guess I processed it, I would like to hear what they have to say, but I don't think we're going to come to a reasonable settlement.
Okay,
So I'm gonna make a motion that we don't go to mediation
Excellent. Director Hooks has a motion, and I'm just going to and Director Wickman made a second. I'm just gonna caution at this point to just remember, I'm not encouraging excessive discussion about this. This is one of those legal that please feel free to state your reasons for the record, but this is one of those areas where we may veer off into territory, so just be aware.
And I might catch.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you. I have said for weeks, I've been on the fence. I've asked questions on both sides and reached out to bright minds, trying to figure out what's the right approach. And one thing I've continuously heard is the appellate court said some very important things, not many of which relate to mediation. They asked the trial court to come back with a variety of options, suggestions for things that could be improved on. Trying to be careful on how I say this. And while it might be argued, Dylan, that there has been a lot since then, the essential positions of the parties regarding the IGA have not changed.
I would agree with that.
And so therefore, we're in a position where I think it might be a bit of a shock to the judge that we would say, well, sure, we'll mediate now. I took Dave's point to heart the last 2 times he said it. And while I don't agree with you completely, I get it. And I will vote with Todd to oppose mediation. And if it's directed, we'll go collect whatever the heck we can get from the other side talking to the mediator.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
And that may surprise some people out there in the ether who think I've been opposed to this all along. I haven't. I've just been trying to find the right answer.
Thank you for researching. Did you have something to say?
I was gonna say, yeah, if the court orders you to mediate, I would strongly recommend that you do.
No, I mean, I want to be really engaged
Yes.
and figure out what it is the big sky thinks they've got that somehow they didn't get last time.
Any other comment? Okay. All in favor then of, what would that even be called?
Option 2.
Option one.
Option 1.
It was some kind of filing telling the court that we had
My
filed
motion
before.
would be that we opt not to mediate currently unless court ordered, right?
Okay.
Which would be to instruct litigation counsel to file a motion seeking to waive the ADR requirement, essentially.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Exactly.
So.
And those were going to be my words.
Okay, all in favor?
I
Aye, unanimous. Motion, okay.
It's been a while since we were of one mind on such an important issue.
I was gonna say we all vote for the minutes.
Yeah, we do.
Well, that shortens up the meeting considerably. Okay, but we do still have legal matters, so we can move on to
they can take it up.
general update,
Yes.
specific items.
Yes, so I did receive Lakewood's red line of my red line of the agreement. I got that back yesterday and I took a look at it. For the most part, the changes were very minimal, some wording changes and a couple substantive changes. And I reached out to Alex Dorotek, who's assistant city attorney for the city of Lakewood, who's handling this matter. And identified an issue with some of his language that was unacceptable. And I noted that there was some ambiguity in the language. He agrees, so we're looking on revising that. I will continue working with him on that to make it less ambiguous. I think that we remain in agreement on the substantive matters as a whole, but we're tidying up the language. So I expect to have another draft for you next month. But take a look at what I sent out. just so you can see where we're at now, present reading. I believe I sent you, a compare version that shows the changes they made to my version. So, you know, it gets kind of complicated.
When did you send this?
This afternoon.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, all right.
1 o'clock or so.
Never mind.
So that's,
I never read it,
but
but
that's in, yeah, you will have it.
yeah, I will.
That's in progress. Any questions?
What are you suggesting for next steps? When I looked at it, I had a lot of questions, but I didn't have the brain to think about it this afternoon. There was a lot of details changing which bridges were owned and who was owning and I couldn't tell if that was substantive or not.
Mm.
So we're going to have, I mean,
I think probably take a look at it and then reach out to me with questions.
Okay.
But
we'll just continue to work on it.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
very good.
There's been some public concern that already finished this process with Purdue Bridge and given up. We're not anywhere close to giving up.
You don't have an agreement. I think you have you have an agreement to agree.
We have an agreement to agree. What do you think the timeline? Can we get this done before next meeting?
Well, I think we can probably get my language revisions hammered out for the next meeting, but
We're on our way to losing the construction period,
yeah, I think,
if it's not already lost.
I am hopeful that we would have substantive changes from us. There's no executing a copy by the April meeting. Thank you. I'm hopeful we have it by the March meeting, but I think.
Yeah.
Reading in your comment, your question just now, I'm supposing that we're going to have some additional revisions.
I don't know. I mean, you know, I'm doing the best I can on it. It's not, and the whole thing was not something I support. It's tough. I don't know. I don't know what to make out of it. I mean, for example, okay, we'll do the best we can.
Okay.
Next.
Yes, so insurance claim update, I believe that this is related to the Bear Creek lining intrusion, sewer intrusion. Candidly, I don't know what happened on the insurer side. The contractor's insurer declined coverage initially on the theory that there was no liability, and it's been rooted. It's back with them and it's been assigned a different adjuster. I kind of think somebody left without informing the insurer and it got dropped. That's just my suspicion. It's not with your insurer, but with the contractor's insurer. Your insurer remains sort of on it.
So would we be a secondary if the first does not pay, but?
Yeah, so if it's a possibility that your insurer will pay for the damages and then seek arbitration from the insurer or from the
That's what I would
contractor.
imagine.
That's it's kind of looking like the way it's gonna go. But I find it pretty difficult to imagine here that no one's going to cover the loss here.
Yeah, it's hard to.
I'm not making any comment at all about anyone's liability, but I'm
Right.
making a prediction about what I think
Right.
insurance decisions will be.
I agree, someone is liable.
It just seems like, it does seem like the timeline is getting a little scary.
Yes, it's been excessive.
Okay.
And it's not, I don't think that it's anything the district could have done, either Bear Creek or Green Mountain. I think that maybe the contractor could have pushed on their insurer a little more. I understand why they didn't, but I think it's their insurer that's been the biggest barrier to getting this resolved.
Probably worth keeping in mind the name of this contractor as we go forward on other projects.
At least their insurer.
Yes.
Okay, well, thanks for keeping up on it.
Mm.
What else you got?
the Fossil Ridge appeal, the Court of Appeals received the record from the trial court that has been certified. We're in the briefing period now where, Solterra is presumably preparing their opening brief. That'll be due toward the end of February. Once received, we will prepare our response brief, as will Fossil Ridge, because they are also appellants here, appellants. So that's sort of ongoing, but nothing to do until we get their opening brief.
Okay. And then you can start racking up more $97,000 bills for yours.
See what it seems like. I'll keep the interest minimal.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Every bit helps.
And other issues that I've been working on the past month were covered in the management report. There is sort of minor things going on that I have my hands on, but nothing to report on those.
Will you relay our mediation decision tonight to?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, I will email Mike and Nicole and ask them to begin that motion.
Thank you.
And they're gearing up to do the job. And the reason I asked is last time when we had Timmons, the sense was that she wanted to go through mediation because she wasn't prepared for the case. And so there's been some concern now. Our guys are not prepared. Maybe they want to mediate. So are our guys getting prepared?
So trial is set for the second week of April. On this timeline, whether you held mediation or not, they would be gearing up for trial prep in March. So, yes.
Okay, so we are reassured.
Yes. Yeah, they would, mediation preparation is pretty different from trial preparation. Anyway, so those are sort of parallel tracks.
Okay. Then different subject matter, there's some other minor pseudo legal things out there. I don't know if you can talk about it, but I'm always following them. The one on Alkire,
Yeah, so we got a core request for that, and that went out 2 weeks ago, maybe, week and a half ago, and haven't heard anything more about that. So.
okay. Then the other one, the Point Athletic Club, 533 Van Gordon.
I have not been involved in that, so I don't know.
Well, they sent a letter in asking us to cut them a break.
Is that the?
Oh, that's who did that. I didn't know that was them.
Yeah.
The Otten Johnson letter about the tap fees?
Yes.
Yeah, I have not heard anything more about that. Well, I think that there was I think the developer sent the board directly an email. And
Yeah,
They did.
didn't copy me.
right, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, so Karen
There was
responded to that.
a response. Did everybody see Karen's response?
Yeah.
I saw that response and I thought that it was fine.
Well, our fees are our fees.
Yeah. Well, and we will be constantly improving. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Inflation, January went up.
It did?
Yeah.
I don't know about you, my costs are all going down.
Yes. I noticed my taxes went down, my mortgage went down, and it's cheaper at fast food now, so there.
The sad issue is our costs are not going down for what we do. It's just gonna be
It's gonna be
that
fine.
way.
Was there any other legal?
No,
Thank you.
not unless there's questions.
Thank you.
Questions? Excellent, moving along. So I think we are eliminating the executive session and the legal matters.
10 and 11 are
Yeah,
unnecessary.
okay. That just brings us to new business. I sent a memo to staff about the holiday schedule and I didn't follow up on that. And I don't remember one of these holidays here came to my attention that they didn't have off, so I'm proposing, I will send it around to vote on for next
Yeah, I was wondering why that was coming up, and the first thing come to mind, well, we have this new holiday, Juneteenth and things like that. Is that what this is all about?
No, it was, so I looked at the holiday schedule and somebody had mentioned this before too, because I have trouble figuring out when they're on and off. The staff take off, the office is closed the day after Thanksgiving and the day after, and Christmas and the day after. So they have substitute holidays in there. One of those is designated, one of them is not. But when I looked and I slid Juneteenth into one of those designated areas, and they were still missing 2 federal holidays. So I'm proposing to add 2 federal holidays and designate everything so that it just keeps track with the federal holiday schedule.
And I just read something in the last day or two about a new holiday that supposedly the state is doing. And it's so new, I can't even think what it was. I mean, I want to say something silly like Native American Day or something like that. And obviously it's nothing like that, but it was like a brand new thing. And I can't even get my head around what it was. And the article was saying, yeah, it's a new one that the state is going to be celebrating, but it wasn't clear to me as to whether it was a holiday you get off
Yeah.
or whatever. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah. I saw that thing, there was some discussion on next door about it.
Yeah,
And it is not, as I recall, not a mandatory state holiday, but more of a recognition day. And by the way, as a percentage Native American, you all can just leave my country.
well, I'm taking my.
Wouldn't we have to give it back to the Eskimos and people came across on the land bridge? It gets highly technical, you know?
And then there's gonna be the aliens who were here first.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, I will send that around and we can discuss it next time. So that when you have a chance, if anybody has anything else to add, please do it then. Any other new business?
Yes, I have one piece of new business. Our next meeting, regular meeting is February 13th. Is that correct?
That's today.
I'm sorry, not February 13th, March 12th.
Of course, February is Groundhog Day.
That's true.
So it could be
It
repeating
could be
over and over again, so.
March 12th, at the conclusion of that meeting will be my last. I'm leaving the board for medical reasons. Expect to be here on the 12th. Nothing precipitous, but stuff that I need to take care of. I appreciate all of you.
Sorry to hear this. We appreciate what you've done with the board. So
I gave Karen a heads up that I was probably heading in this direction. That she would have a ready and able person to.
I do not. I was
Sure.
not anticipating you doing this. We'll take you as long as we can. This is wonderful. I'm sorry to see you go. March, go ahead.
After.
At the conclusion of the meeting.
Well, we'll have to advertise it. When do we do that? After March 12th or?
No, that's why.
There will be a vacancy March 13th.
But
Keep going.
since it was appointed, how much time is left on that? Any idea?
May 25.
Till the next regular election, which is next May. Well, May.
So just over a year.
Yeah, so it'll be an appointment also until the next regular election, which will be March 25th for the duration of the original term.
Gotcha.
Well, the appropriate thing would be to advertise it, and that's what I would advocate. But is that required?
No.
I was gonna say, I remember we had this conversation.
Yeah.
Theoretically, we just pulled somebody right out of it.
We got a few people last time, I think. we should-
Well, and that's kind of what I was,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking. We do have kind of a bit of a school, or what do you call that? In baseball, when you have the minor leagues. We have a bench.
There's a lot of good people out there.
Well, you were one of them. Thank you for
Well,
serving and giving us all your time.
I hope I've always been respectful, even when we have not agreed.
You have,
Because I like you all a lot.
We like you too. Thank you.
Even
Sorry,
though it doesn't charge us interest when it should.
And I hope you're, and I hope you're healthy.
He's gonna increase people in account receivable. He's emailing him tonight. Why aren't we charging GMS water interest?
Um, I don't know that there's anything for us to do at this time, then we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Spread the word. A lot of good people out there.
Maybe you'll change your mind. Okay, or not.
If I have really good medical news next Tuesday, I wouldn't say no, but, gotta get past a little hiccup first.
Well, we will,
Unknown stuff is darn scary. Really is.
yeah, well,
Well, you can hang with King Charles.
Well,
You can immiserate.
I think that leaves us, again, not doing anything else tonight. We'll revisit next time, and no other new business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion that we adjourn the meeting.
second.
Director Hooks makes motion, Director Garner seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, unanimous. Thank you all. It's not even 8.
We should do this again sometime, maybe next month.
Holy cow.